keep finding ways that we're helping partners finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work.
Welcome to Academy Live. Welcome to Academy Live. Today is all about the power of peer engagement. We'll be talking to Adam Hannemann, one of our fantastic peer group facilitators. Over the last year, he has built up the peer group program, adding 20 new peer groups and 120 more members. So quick shout out to Adam at the top of the show. Today's show will all be about peer groups. Peer groups at Pax8 have three main components. The first being that everyone has the same role as an MSP. So they're the owner, they're the service manager, they're a dispatcher, they're a sales professional or a project manager. The second is everyone is at the same place in their business journey. So they have the same growth stage, maybe a similar size company, similar size revenue. And the third is that they're located in different areas. So they're non-competing and they can feel open sharing their company's inner workings and their finances, things like that. Now, we feel like more than ever, it's a great time to be together and be in a space that allows for sharing and learning and bouncing ideas off one another. Peer groups can be an important influence, not just for one's business, but throughout one's life. We all agree that this is just one of the amazing things that Pax8 invests time and energy in.
Hey, Rex, you know what today is?
I'm going to go with Tuesday, May 2nd.
Yeah,
Actually,
technically that's
I know
correct.
exactly what today is. Today we are celebrating the
Good year.
Oh, thank you so much.
I think that was a little surprise for Bessie. So
yeah, I did not know what was going to be in that video. So it makes me so happy. I'm so glad to have been at Pax8 for 1 year. And I know, Rex, this is your 2-year anniversary. So I want to make sure that you get a shout out as well, even if you don't have a special video.
2 years since the acquisition of Sea Level. So I'm stoked. I've been kind of telling a few people, I spent 2 years wondering what today, right? Like how I was going to feel this week after 2 years. And I'm just energized is the one word. So Bessie, I'm curious, does 1 year kind of hold true to the Pax8ism about, Pax8 years being like 7 years or?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know when I first started teaching my first class, Building Your MSP, and I was trying to introduce myself in a way that I was like, I've been at Pax8 for just 1 month, but that's basically 7 months in Pax8 time. I had no idea even 7 years,
approaching
7 months later, how I'd feel. Yeah, and a year later, how I feel. So I'm just so grateful to be part of the Pax8, family, and this whole experience has been amazing to get to know all of you, get to know our community, our partners, what they're really looking for, and how we can best support them. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad that I was able to find my way to Pax8. So
and as Kaiser says, hosting a YouTube live show is in that other duties as assigned line in the job description, and you jump right in.
Print.
But thinking of things that Chris Kaiser says, you got a quote of the day for us?
I do, and I'm excited to share that with you. When we were prepping for the show, something that came to my mind was that we talked about, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we thought this quote would really speak to our conversation today, because it's all about really the peer groups, peer communities, and kind of not going alone, but taking this journey together with others, and how much more we can accomplish together. So I thought that really resonated with me. I'm very happy to share that and kind of maybe incorporate that into some of our conversation. And with that, it's a good time to transition and bring on our guest, Adam Hannemann, who's a peer group facilitator. Adam, welcome. And I want to acknowledge, you know what? I think May 2nd is a special day for you as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah, Bessie and I actually started on the same day. So it's our together 1 year anniversary at Pax8. So
Yeah, that scarf that captures the moment, man. Jen, can we grab that for later? I want to use that again later. We're definitely going to recycle that.
I mean, I live in Minnesota, but I don't almost ever wear a scarf.
You know what I think is awesome is that we've got producers on this show that surprise us with that stuff. You know, show after show after show, this stuff just pops in there, and we're like, "Where did that come from?"
It is so creative, and it just what they incorporated in the show is just amazing. I feel very blessed. So much talent here, and it's great to be a part of that. You know, Adam, what's your year been like? I want to hear kind of, Bessie talked about Rex is asking that 1 year feels like 8, or forever. But how would you look back on this year and kind of reflect on your experiences here?
It's been great. I came to Pax8 to kind of shift away from being in an MSP to kind of help my fellow MSPers out there, and being able to come in and work in the peer groups as my full-time gig has just been awesome. And I know Bessie kind of gave me a lot of props in the beginning there, but it's definitely a team effort. There's more than just me on the team. Chris and Bessie and Carrie and a number of other folks. We just brought somebody new on today. So we've got a number of people here that have just been fantastic to work with. And I'm just excited to be here to talk about peer groups, because when I told my former employer and other friends in the industry that I was leaving my former place to come to Pax8, they said, Pax8 doesn't have peer groups. What are you talking about? And I said, well, they do. It's kind of a secret. It's almost like their best kept secret. So I'm here today to talk a lot about trying to unleash the power of peer group and really try to bring forth the power that you can build for your company by working with other folks to do what you do elsewhere. So that's why I'm here today. So I actually it feels a little bit like I'm on one of those nighttime talk shows where I can throw it to a clip, because I actually brought a clip along with me. So if you guys could roll the clip, and let's hear about some peer group stuff in a little bit more of an organized fashion. Hi there, my name is Adam Hannemann, and I'm a facilitator here at Pax8. And when I talk to members and other partners within the industry, sometimes they ask me, like, I didn't realize that Pax8 had peer groups. When did you guys get peer groups? Peer groups, in many ways, are one of our best kept secrets, and it's my job to help kind of shout it from the mountaintops that, yeah, we've got peer groups and we want you to join. So help me walk through this presentation while we talk through a little bit. So let's get into it. On our peer group side of the world, we have a mission to meet our partners where they are. And if you watched our first episode of Pax8 Academy Live, Chris talked about this as his tagline, right? We want to meet the partners where they are. It doesn't matter if you're a single person MSP or you've got 150 employees. It really doesn't matter. We've got groups of every different size that can help you grow your business. So that's really the genesis of this, is we want to slot you in where you're going to improve, learn from your peers, help each other out, and move your business up and along the way. So let's talk a little bit about who our peer groups are designed to help out. So we have your traditional owner and principal peer groups, right? It's the owners of the companies. They learn from each other. They share stuff back and forth. That's pretty straightforward. But we also have operations level peer groups, right? So you think about your service exec, service manager groups, right? Where they're talking a lot about service, project, how to get the best out of their different tools and that kind of thing. Very service fit focused. Then we also have a COO level peer group, and that group is really designed to do all of the other operational stuff that's not service related, right? So think HR and finance and invoicing and all of the other stuff that kind of has to happen in order for the company to be successful. That's that COO group, and they are very powerful. We also have security peer groups, right? So we've got security peer groups for every level of the security continuum, right? Whether you're just kind of getting started and you're really heavy into tools and you're trying to figure out your offering, all the way up through, we've kind of been there, done that. we're now doing all of the different compliances, and we're trying to really, we're offering a super mature, and we're really just trying to drive that security home, right? So we can help you no matter where you are there. We also have a couple different types of role-based peer groups. So we've got triage and dispatch peer groups where it's really a spot for our triage and dispatch folks to meet and to talk about what they're learning from each other, what issues they're running into, and how to solve some issues. It's really just really focused around that job, which is critically important as your company grows. We also have a project manager peer group where it is, again, focused specifically on the project manager role. As your company grows and you mature your project management offering, you really could use some help learning from each other and learning some best practices and really just being part of a group. Both of these groups are run by just fantastic human beings. The woman that runs the triage and dispatch peer groups, she lives and breathes triage and dispatch. This is a thing she's passionate about. She loves it. She works up lesson plans and all kinds of really just great exercises for the group to run through. And our project manager person who runs the project group, he is awesome as well. He lives and breathes projects. He's all about projects, and that's his passion area. So you're going to learn from some of the best in the industry and also just learn from each other as well. We have sales peer groups that are, again, designed to kind of help you depending on where you are in the continuum of sales, right? Oftentimes, as companies grow, the owners try to step further and further away from sales, and so we have a group for that. We have a group where they're kind of in that transition. Depending on where you are, we can help you with that as well. And it's really all about trying to improve that sales process and how to really kind of get your deals closed and move them along that way. The last group I want to talk about today here is really our $1 to $1 million peer group, and it's really designed for that kind of solopreneur, that just getting started a company, right? So if you are a one-person shop, or you maybe have a tech or two or a part-time tech, and you're just kind of getting going, and you just feel like you could use some help along the way, that's what this peer group is designed for, because it's partial like a peer group where you have conversations with people on a regular basis, but we also bring a lot of content to the group to kind of help push you along and get you past some of those earlier hurdles so that you don't have to learn things the hard way the entire time, which where a lot of us, as we started our MSPs however many years ago, had to kind of figure that out the hard way, and we try to help streamline that a little bit for you. So let's talk a little bit more about details about how each group operates, right? So we have, as it relates to our schedule, every group has at least monthly meetings. Every meeting is at least an hour or two long, depending on your group, and that's really important. The other piece is, as it relates to the schedule, is we have, for most of our groups, they meet in person 3 times a year. We actually are meeting right after Beyond in the Denver area. And then later this fall, in October, we're actually coming to Minnesota to meet in Minnesota, maybe experience some fall colors too before the snow flies. The piece, though, that's important here is that you need to be present to win. If you're not able to make the meetings, or you're not going to be able to make the in-person meetings, it's going to be a challenge for you. So my tagline is you must be present to win, because if you're not in the groups, you're going to have a hard time winning from them. Each one of our groups is facilitated by a Pax8 vetted facilitator. So, and most of them are Pax8 employees, but we have a number of member facilitators that love the industry, have been there, done that. They've jumped through a lot of the hurdles, and they know the industry and how it works. And we've trained them to be facilitators for us as well. And it's really fun to see them grow, because as they facilitate, they learn and they teach, and it's a great relationship that way. And we don't want our peer groups kind of twisting in the wind. So every group meeting is facilitated. Every in-person meeting is facilitated. We bring in subject matter experts and all of those kinds of things. It's so obvious that you're going to get the value out of it that it would be silly not to join, right? So as it relates to joining, each of our peer groups costs roughly $300. There's a couple that are cheaper, but for the most part, just figure $300. And if you are interested in joining a peer group, you really should just reach out to your channel account manager or your operations consultant, and we'll be happy to help move you forward through that process. And so as we get ready for our meetings in June, we hope to see you there.
Thank you so much, Adam, for preparing that and for teaching us all the details about what it means to be in a peer group and how it's formed. So could you just start by telling us a little bit about this program? How did it come to be? What's the history of it to get to where we're at now, as you presented?
Well, sure. So, the history goes back before I started. Obviously, that started with Chris and a couple other folks. But I started last year, and we're at about 65 members, and we're at 180 or so members right now today. So it's a huge amount of growth in just about a year. Chris, why don't you tell us, if you would tell us a little bit about like the before I started phase, because that's interesting, right? Because COVID played into that, and we can
Oh,
talk a
well.
little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we mentioned, Pax8 really had this huge investment in partners, and kind of really, how can we help? What can we do to go beyond kind of the solution, the license, the product, the portfolio, the distribution arm, which they do extremely well. And so it was really an opportunity, like you said, to transition from being in an MSP, the day-to-day grind, and owning and the decision and running an MSP, to kind of stepping back, taking a broader look and looking at how can we help others. And that transition, Adam, you really relate to as well, from coming from actual
Hmm.
experience to how do we kind of take a broader sweep and look and being able to help and connect with others that are going through and experiencing those same things. And as we started kind of building out and we started kind of getting some recognition, yeah, the COVID hit within the first 6 months of really kind of doing this. So had a
It's all
huge
about timing, right?
impact. Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, since you've been on and grown, since you've been on and helped grow the program, like you said, the numbers, almost tripling in size, the number of members participating, number of active groups, and things like that. Um, One of my questions to you is kind of in that year, what was your biggest surprise in taking on this role and making this adjustment for yourself?
I think the biggest surprise for me is just how hungry the industry is for a fantastic peer group experience, right? I think, I've been in and around peer groups for years and years at this point, and I thought that the community was what it was, right? And you come over here, and all of a sudden, it's just people are jumping in left and right and thinking, boy, this is awesome. I want to get more and more of it, and I was sheltered in my previous life where I didn't have a ton of external exposure. I was very focused on this one thing, and now I can see lots of other stuff. It's really awesome to be able to do that, and then there's sort of a personal, warms my heart a little bit when I work with a member and they go, oh, that thing that I've been struggling with now, it makes a lot more sense. And you can see that they're learning and growing and their business is improving and frankly, their lives are getting better and their employees' lives are getting better. Because you can tell it, you can feel it when it happens. Those are some of the moments I figured that would happen here and there, but it happens a lot, right? You help a member through a thing, or you see another member helping a member, or obviously again, dealing with the power of the peer group, and that is just the reward from that is just it's hard to define, but it's been
It's
fantastic.
And isn't it amazing? Like, I think you and I have been around this so long and have done a lot of work to build these and have been participating and get this sense. But when somebody comes in from the outside and they experience for the first time the amount of connectivity there is, what people are
Hmm.
willing to share and talk about, and the depth and the connection, I've had it be very touching in a lot of situations where people are very open and some vulnerable, and just the amount of growth that comes from that. I imagine that resonates with you. Like you said, it touches me as well to hear you say your experience of seeing that growth from it. um, since you've been here, I mean, what are some of your, can you give some of your highlights or biggest accomplishments over the year that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I think that a lot of what I'm proud of with the group is that we've really built it to start to scale better, right? So when I joined, right, everybody was coming to Denver, here and there because you live in Denver, and I said, well, I don't live in Denver, so we need to start consolidating these groups and build out like a more methodological schedule so we can build it out and expand it as we go, which allows us to bring on more facilitators and do other things because in order to build a program that can scale with the number of MSPs that we could be helping, we need to do a lot more to make the logistics easy, right? And so a lot of that stuff has really come to the forefront, and been the kind of one of the biggest things that I've been able to appreciate. And by doing that, we're able to do things like move beyond like status updates, right? So a lot of times in my previous peer group meetings, we'd spend a lot of time doing status updates and stuff that's important, and you can get into a lot of things. But because we have those monthly meetings and they're facilitated and all of those good things, we don't need to do a rote status update then for the meeting. Sure, we'll do a little bit of that, but we're working on building out some additional and more in-depth and more collaborative experiences that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have the normal regular monthly meetings to kind of take care of some of that sort of day-to-day minutia almost. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to as we kind of continue to move on.
Adam, I hear you saying the word building out a lot. And I just wanted to share with the listeners that within Pax8 in general, we use this term called OKRs, right? Objectives and key results. And within Academy, we try to set annual objectives and then quarterly, right? The key results, right? So if you set an objective, you use the word as measured by, and then you say key results, right? Whatever the key results are. And one of our objectives for this calendar year is to dramatically reshape the peer group landscape in the industry, right? And so to hear you say building out is kind of warming my heart a little bit. In the previous show, I talked about the 5 kind of inflection points that really changed the direction of my career, and the peer group was one of them. And the relationships I built in that peer group from 2004 to 7 was that service manager peer group. Those relationships are still very important to me today, right, in 2023. And I'm just loving seeing that develop, in our own peer groups. And at the time, there were several owner peer groups in the industry, but there weren't as many. Like the concept of a peer group for service managers was pretty foreign, back then. And now, and I felt like, I was alone in the life raft in the shark infested waters, trying to figure out how to create a managed services offering early on, and dramatically reshaping the peer group landscape, right? Creating peer groups specifically for dispatchers, right? What I hear them saying, I think, similar things, right? Are you hearing them say that they felt like they're alone?
Oh, for sure. And the thing too is, especially with the dispatcher group, is that we had a situation where they all commiserate on things. And one of the things that one of our members was talking about, she said that I have this goal that I need to build this thing out. I need to build out some sort of decision tree, and I just don't have the time to do it. And I said, well, you come to these meetings every couple of weeks. How about we tackle it together? And we actually did a collaborative effort over the course of about a month or two's worth of meetings, and actually created an asset that she was able to then turn around and use as her her decision tree. And we then shared it with the rest of the other dispatch peer group and all the different peer groups across our landscape. It's actually a course on the on our Academy on Demand area too. So it's those kinds of things are just awesome. And we were able to, one, help her, but two, help the rest of the peer group by just going through an exercise together, which was a really powerful collaborative exercise. So we're definitely seeing that at every level, really.
And I love the way that works. Bessie's been very involved, with understanding the peer groups and taking that feedback and using that and leveraging that within instructor-led courses and Academy on Demand and vice versa. Bessie, any other connections that you've seen between some of the peer groups and coursework?
Yeah, we've been able to connect a lot. So we work a lot with certain peer groups, could really benefit from a certain course that we drive them to that course. So for example, we have our Phoenix group, this $0 to $1 to 1 million peer group that's designed, if you're just starting out, you're at $1. How do you make it to $1 million? And so we have a course that just started, this is all very recent, called Jumpstart Your MSP Sales Machine. It's designed specifically for owners who do sales. So probably you're in that $1 to 1 million range if you're the owner that's doing sales. And we encourage them all to take that course because that's really going to benefit them. And we're trying to match that all the time. So if you're in a service manager peer group, we highly recommend you take the service manager course. And we're always building those connections. And some of the courses that we've created, even Adam has created a course called Getting Your Finances in Order. That I think was sort of born a little bit from this idea that peer group members need to get their finances in order. And this is what they need to do to get that to happen. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's one of the things. One of the things that we're spending a lot of time on right now is trying to build out this finance side of the world, because, believe it or not, most MSPs don't start an MSP to become finance masters, right? That's just not what we're wired for. And nor was I when I started my own thing back in the early 2000s, right? I was a good tech and not good at the finance side. I was actually terrible at it, which is why ultimately I'm not in that particular business any longer. But I've spent a lot of time over the last several years learning about finance and realizing that there's a niche to kind of get everyone from this, whatever this base level is, up to kind of what is kind of like the good level. You don't need to be a financial expert, but you need to understand how to read a balance sheet, how to read a P&L, and how to do some of that stuff. And that's where that course comes in. And we were trying to squeeze a lot of financial stuff into a single course in one of the previous courses that we had. And it was just too much for 1 hour. So we expanded it, and we're getting some good feedback from that course too. So it's been fantastic.
So Bessie, you mentioned the Phoenix peer groups. I know this is sort of my baby, but I'm going to give you the stage to talk a little bit about what it is.
Yeah, so the Phoenix peer groups are really for those sort of solopreneurs, the very kind of very beginning MSPs where either maybe it's a side gig, or you're branching out to do this thing on your own, and you don't know exactly all the things you need to do, right? And you could take a class and you could read some books and whatever else, but the idea here is it's sort of like half peer group and then half like a course, sort of, right? So, and we meet every single week. This is a little bit different than our typical peer group, because we want that kind of consistent touch point. And we've been doing this for 6 months with the first Phoenix group. And that group has really gelled, and they've been fantastic with each other, and they're learning together. They're helping each other. They're holding each other accountable, which is a big part of our groups as well. And then we bring some good content in, partially from all the coaching, right? Obviously, all of the former C-level coaching, now Pax8 Academy coachings. And it's just been a fantastic experience. And then Rex and you and I, we've found together that, oh, hey, we don't have content for this. And then I said, well, hold on, I got a couple hours this afternoon. Let me go back in my lab and let me see if I can make something. And we'll go and we'll build a business plan or a sales plan, or we were talking about hiring new employees this morning, hiring your first employees with our group this morning. And we said, well, we kind of need some sort of an assessment to figure out who the first employee should be, because it's different for every MSP. And one of the other coaches, was talking in my ear on the back, and I said, hold on, I have some ideas. So I have a whiteboard kind of sketched out, kind of in between things today of a thing I want to make. So that's really it's really awesome, because we're able to kind of like let them work with each other, and then kind of help them along and guide them along with people who kind of been there, done that, and have learned some of the ropes the hard way.
Yeah, we've got a ton of content around that stage 2 company, where they've got an owner and a service manager. We've got a lot of content around that stage 3 company where they're transitioning to a leadership team running the company. But we didn't really have very much content targeted at that solopreneur trying to get from 0 to their first million. And their needs are totally different. We need to scale it back and say, this is only what we need to do now to get us to the point where we need to do more later, right? And the Phoenix peer groups have been awesome for that. And I've been loving that. It's interesting, because in one of our first meetings with the group, they wanted to talk tech, right? And I threw the big timeout signal. We are not talking tech. We are working on the business. And one of the things that happened is the group was gelling so well, right? They were creating that trust with amongst themselves, but on their own, they went and put together a second weekly meeting on Friday instead of Tuesday, just for tech talk, because I literally would not let them talk tech in this meeting. So I thought that was kind of fun.
And the funny thing is that there's a second Phoenix cohort, and they have a very similar thing too. They actually have they made their own second meeting too. It's because they wanted to spend more time together and sort of unstructured time too, right? That's where a lot of this really, where a lot of that power from these peer groups come in, because it's that, when you talk about things like when we meet in person and you talk about, we're walking to go get some coffee or we're coming back from lunch or whatever. And it's those kind of organic conversations that they just happen because you happen to be in the same spot, whether you're on a Teams call or a Zoom call or physically in the same space. That unstructured time can yield some just fantastic results. So that's a big part of some of the benefit you see with peers.
Really, really powerful.
We ask them,
and I think
we ask them for 10% of their time to work on the business, right? And once you get them rolling, working on the business, 10% doesn't feel like enough.
Right.
And we I you jump in and say I want to show the perspective we have from a member. We're hearing us talking about this. I'd love to. Could you play the video we have of one of the peer group members' perspective on this? We keep finding ways that we're helping partners with the peer groups, which are a huge, people are really receptive to that, and there's a huge demand for that. I think people to be able to connect with others. It's finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose, experiencing growth and success and overcoming challenges. It's just a lot of fun. It's really powerful. It's great to see that experience of our partners.
So I joined about a year ago. We do a monthly meeting. We all get on the phone, talk together about our different experiences that's going on, set quarterly goals. It's been great. My position is technical services manager, so everything on the service side I'm in charge of. There is no training for that. It's a tough job because I don't know what good looks like, I don't know what bad looks like. Am I doing good, am I doing bad? So getting with other people doing the same role as me, it's a lot more quantitative than I can figure that stuff out. I spoke with my owner about 2 months ago, suggested him joining a peer group. He's been trialing 2 of them now, and he loves it. He's joining up. I am actually going to reach out to my dispatcher and have him join the dispatcher peer group because they're awesome. So I just had a review a month ago, and my owner pulled me inside and said, I just want to let you know I have heard from 5 or 6 different people that you've gotten much better at your job. And I could say without a doubt that a lot of that comes from these peer groups. This teaches you how to deal with the day-to-day life of the MSP and being the manager of the employees, how we should meet with them, how often we should meet, how to implement new technologies, how to implement customer feedback form. It's been great. And it's a direct relationship. Time commitment is pretty big, but you only get out what you put in. So I don't mind putting in the extra time to get a lot out of it. You have to be open to change. You're gonna have to want to better your business, whether it be with your employees or the company itself. You have to be open to change and open to better. I'm gonna say we have more meetings now that are productive. We were meeting a lot before, but there was I felt very limited value added to them. I feel like now we have meetings and there's a lot more value added from it. That's been one of the biggest differences, I'd say. We've found new products that we've implemented. Right now in this peer group, everybody has the same role. Things are done a little bit differently, and everybody's open to that, as long as it makes sense to us. We are in a constant struggle of how to train our help desk guys to get better at the job. There's really no training out there that does that. So with Pax8 Academy opening up that door, it's going to be great for our techs to learn how to deal with the MSP environment.
Wow. I just had my review, and my boss said he's heard from 5 or 6 people that I'm much better at my job. I mean, that right there is goosebumps. Like, that brings the goosebumps and makes me go all in on partner enablement.
That's powerful.
And shows that impact we're having and how big of a difference it makes.
Mm-hmm.
I love
At all
that.
levels. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out, Rex. I mean, the other thing too, and I think we all agree this, but I'll really to Adam, it's kind of rewarding, right? I mean, I think that really goes back to why we do what we do, and we talk about that on the peer groups and the purpose and the meaning. That right there is a great illustration of why we do what we do and why we're building these communities and these peer groups and what the purpose is.
Absolutely.
And there's a question in the chat that I want to address just to make sure that Kapil gets their question answered. So the question is, does Pax8 also help new startups, those who are low on budgets and want to use the cloud? And so I want to make sure that we address that because it's something that's important to us at Pax8 Academy. It's one of our mottos of learn what you want to learn, how you want to meet every partner where they are with what they want to learn, how they want to learn it. So, and that includes startups. That includes you're just getting started, you're just getting the ball rolling, and you're like, well, Bessie and Chris and Adam and Rex, I don't have $300 a month to spend on Phoenix Peer Group yet. It's something that I want to do, but I'm not available to yet. There's a few things that you can do to get started. So one, check out our course called Building Your MSP. This is designed just for you that are just getting started to teach you really what are the main things you need to know to get into this business or to transition from break fix to managed services. So things like getting your stack set up, thinking about your own security, getting your pricing right, and figure out how do I start talking about this? How do I talk to prospects? How do I talk to my customers about my business and make sure that they're in safe hands? So that's one course I definitely recommend checking out. That's an instructor-led course. We also have tons and tons of free content on academy.pax8.com. If you're a Pax8 partner, you have access to this material, and there's going to be lots of information on setting up your stack, anything that you need to know to get started. I think we have a Selling 101 course. Things like that are going to get you everything you need to know to get started. So I recommend checking that out as well. What do you all think? Is there anything else that I missed that, for a startup, what resources they should look at?
Yeah, I'm glad you said meet every partner where they are, right? Because that's really what all this free on-demand content is about. It's that gym membership analogy. Come use the machines, sign up for an instructor-led course, join a peer group, get a personal trainer with the one-on-one coaching, right? And we know that if you look at the Pareto principle with Pax8, right? 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our partners, right? The really big ones. But the other side of that is 80% of a huge percentage of our partners are in that long tail, right? And we want to meet you where you are. And we know you don't have a lot of time during the day. And we know that you don't have money really to invest in working with an academy resource. And that's why we're working so hard to produce as much of that free on-demand content as we can, so that you can use it whenever you want to. And hopefully it's the content you need to get you to the point where you can do a couple $100 instructor-led course to accelerate your growth, or do a couple $100 a month peer group, again, to accelerate that growth. But we need to help get you to where you can do that. And we totally understand that.
And I'm really glad that like I said it before, Pax8 really is invested in the partners. I say that a lot, but I really believe that because I see that. And I know that Academy, it's not just focused on this, type of partner or this growth stage level. It's all. And I love that we're focused so much in our goals and how we're building out things in Academy to be learning paths and be these journey from aspiring to emerging, to, stable and growing to scaling, all those and the resources, the on-demand, the courses, the peer groups could really lend themselves to that development and growth. So Bessie, I think you did a great job answering the question and kind of directing, where the resources.
I would say too, even though it's not part of Pax8 Academy specifically, there's also other free resources that you should check out that are related to our events team puts on free mission briefings and free boot camps that happen either virtually or they travel around the country to meet you and help you with your technical skills and your sales skills. So if you go to pax8.com/events, you can check those out and see those free resources, as well as our Microsoft Programs team. They also offer some free enablement courses that you can actually register for at academy.pax8.com. So take a look at those. They're all free.
These first couple of shows we're doing are really about introducing Pax8 Academy, right? Because we spent 2 years building this thing. And I think we have them confirmed that the channel team's going to join us on one of our near upcoming shows.
Upcoming days,
as well.
hopefully. So, I don't know if they're for sure dialed in, but we've asked them, so hopefully they'll be on soon.
We'll have them on soon. Yeah, very soon.
Yep.
I want to ask, Adam, in the time that you've been here, you've seen the growth and change. Like you said, we're kind of almost outgrowing the previous model before you had gotten here with the accountability meetings and in-person meetings. Tell us a little bit about what you focused on in the last year to really add value to those accountability meetings, the in-person meetings that we have.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question. There's a number of things. The first thing is we focus on finance a lot. And it's going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but honestly, many of these business owners that's not their strong point, and that's okay, right? That's you can't be an expert on everything the minute you start a business, and so we spend some time there. We spend a fair amount of time there. We also spend time on trying to figure out where they're struggling, where they could use some help. So, one of our groups was talking a lot about security, and they said, "Hey, we could really use some security help, and we want some big thinkers in the room." And so, I said, "Well, hey, we have a security guy. We have Matt Lee." I said, "Well, hey, Matt, can you come and just visit a peer group for us and come and be a subject matter expert for a couple of days?" And he said, "Heck yeah, I'm on a plane. Just tell me when and where." So Matt came to a peer group and he talked to 4 or 5 groups, and it was great. And so those are things that we're working on, building that kind of those things out, trying to really give them just solid areas of expertise where it's not relying on us necessarily, and not relying on the members to know all of the things. We can bring in the people in the industry, because we're all fairly well connected in the industry. So if we need an SME on a thing, we can bring an SME in. And so other things that we've talked about a lot are building on our business planning piece, right? Where as we headed into Q4 last year, we said, hey, those of you who plan a little bit, even if you actually don't execute 100% on your plan, you're still going to be further down the path by doing that work than you would have been otherwise. So do that. And they said, okay. And the members that have participated are telling me how great it's been and how awesome it's been to have that content available. And we're always looking for ways to do those kinds of things. And again, that's one of the reasons I came here, right? I love the mission of kind of meeting every partner where they are, because I get to be creative on some of that stuff that I just didn't have time for before in my previous life. And so I get to scratch that creative itch, which is fantastic. And 2, I get to help other people. That's my happy place right there. So that's exactly why I'm here. So the other piece is that we've really outgrown the space we have in our office, right? So back when I started, we were able to fit everybody in a couple of rooms, and over the course of the last several meetings, we've really started to push out the space at the office, and people sometimes would like to travel someplace other than Denver. As awesome as Denver is, a little bit of variety is not terrible. And so we've actually found that it's time to bring the show on the road. So we're bringing the show on the road starting in Denver. It's actually starting in Denver, funnily enough, right after.
It was wait, what?
But we're actually, yeah, I know, it's sort of silly.
If you know, but
we're actually gonna, yeah. But we get a chance to sort of beta test the show on the road while we're still close enough to the home office. If we need some help or whatever else, we can kind of iron some of those wrinkles out. And it's right after Beyond, and so all of our peer group members, we're going to shift hotels, and we're going to load them up on buses, and we're going to bus over to the new hotel and get right into the meetings. It's going to be a little bit like a peer group field trip, and we're looking forward to it. And we're going to move these group meetings around a little bit, because it's good to get to see other areas of the country. And honestly, we need more than 4 or 5 conference rooms that will fit 8 or 10 or 12 people, right? So those are some of the big things that we've done and are doing. So.
And it's a big decision also too, looking at October. Tell us a little bit about the location for October. It's a little special place for you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just on the street. So yeah, I live in Minnesota, and October is a great time of year here. The fall colors are coming out, and it's before it gets real cold. I mean, it's chilly. It's just going to be a little bit of a nip in there, but it's not going to be the water's not going to be frozen. They're going to get some good colors. We're meeting near the Mall of America, so there's a bunch of like cool things that we're going to be able to do just by being here. And we may or may not be able to get out on the water a little bit. We'll wait and see. I've done October boat trips in the snow before, so there's a little bit of a risk there, but it's a beautiful time of year before it gets real cold, and I love Minnesota, so I'm happy to have some more folks come north for a little bit.
And a fun fact is that Adam will take any opportunity to work from outside. I wish we had a picture of your like outdoor setup that you have, but he'll teach classes outside. He'll run meetings outside. He gets a whole setup, and you can tell like, oh wow, it's a nice day in Minnesota today. Whenever Adam is taking a call outside, it's a lot of fun.
And by nice day, I think he means like over 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, yeah, right, nice for Minnesota.
Yeah, and
exactly. I think the producers would have killed me if I would have tried to meet out there today. It's really windy out, and it's actually not very warm. But although in a week or two it's supposed to warm up, so I think that might
They're
be
all
an option
shaking
later.
their heads. Yeah.
Yeah, they want as few variables as possible, and there's lots of variables when I sit outside. But it's worth it. We don't get a ton of nice weather here, so I take advantage of every minute of it that I can. So yeah, I'm just waiting for it to warm up like 5 or 10 more degrees. That's all I really need.
And I want to say something else I want to add that, we talk about the peer groups and we talk about the accountability meetings and the ability to have those conversations, really get to know each other, and the sidebar things where just so much happens, right? But I think a big value that's understated about being involved in the peer group community or being in a peer group and actively participating is that those things that we put focus and intent on are what we impact. And I think that peer group provides focus and intent for people that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that's where we see the impact from their participation, right? And I think that in person as well as in meetings just really lends to that and just create that environment. And that's where we see a lot of the results. I don't know if that resonates with you, Adam, or even Rex, in your experience in a group. I got to say, Rex, I remember you telling me going to a peer group meeting was more intimidating of what your peers were going to say about what you had to do than maybe even your own in the company.
When I set a strategic goal or targeted a financial metric, I was way more worried about telling my peers I didn't make it than I was ever dealing with my boss.
So true.
Yeah, I resonate with that remark too. Really, you don't want to let your peers down, right? You don't want to show up and say, I didn't do the thing. I didn't hit the target I wanted to hit, or I didn't execute on this project like I probably should have, or I told you I was going to do. And that in many ways is a lot more powerful than having your boss or your business partner say, well, what's going on here? It's definitely a group you don't want to let down. And one of my very first peer group experiences as a member, I showed up and I got up in front of the group and I said, this is who I am and this is what I do. And they said, dude, you don't know your numbers. You don't know this stuff well enough to really know how you're doing. No shame on you, but you gotta learn some stuff, and we're here to help. And that's where the power for me comes. It's because you especially as you get an opportunity, as you've been a member for a little bit, you get to teach other people some stuff. And when you teach other people things that you've learned, you learn it better yourself, and you get better at it just because you have to teach other people things. And there's always a give and a take in a peer group, and it's you do a lot of taking right at the beginning, but a lot of times what happens is you find that, oh, there's a topic I know more about than some of the people are having some trouble, and you can start giving back, and it's really, really powerful the minute you can start doing those things. And I'll never forget, there was one day, he actually is a Pax8 coach for us as well, but he and I were sitting down at a dinner table, and we're trying to like figure out, I think he was having some challenges with his accountability or org chart or whatever. And we took, it was the classic, he takes a napkin out and we start drawing on a napkin about what would this look like? And we grabbed another napkin. What would that look like? And we did a number of those things. And that was one of those side conversations that, because I happened to sit across from him at dinner, we had like a 2.5 hour long, really in-depth conversation. And I think we helped solve some of the challenges he was running into. And that for me is where the magic is I want to create as many of those opportunities for as many MSPs as possible. And that's frankly why I'm here. I love this world so much that I can't get enough of it. So, and I think we actually have another video, don't we?
Yeah,
Jaime.
let's go ahead and roll out another peer group perspective.
So I'm Jaime Gonzalez from Los Angeles, California. We have an MSP focused on cybersecurity, and I'm one of the owners. We're called Ultimo Solutions. I actually met Rex Frank at an event, and we instantly bonded. He told me he had a plan of peer group in the works, and we stayed in touch, and a few months later we were part of a peer group. I didn't really understand the value until we were in, but it's been probably one of the greatest things that's happened to our business in the last year. It's been a great support group. We've also been able to find great partners in areas that we don't cover, so it's just been super valuable. So the Phoenix Peer Group is meant for companies that are in their starting phase or only have a few customers or clients. So it's a place where we really get to define our ideal customer, our ideal client. It's helped us reach higher standards of excellence, knowing that we have highly experienced mentors in the peer group, walking us through everything and also learning from our peers. It's created a lot of impact for our company. If somebody asked me about joining a peer group, I would probably, regardless of their size, I'd probably tell them to do it. It's going to help you get uncomfortable with some of the areas where you need to grow, and shine some light in your weaknesses. There's so much you can pick up. Even if you feel like you're an expert in some areas, you might not be an expert at running a business. And that's what we've learned from it, how to run our business better.
Really powerful.
I remember having that conversation with him on a trade show floor someplace. And he was telling me that they were just starting their business. They didn't have any revenue yet. And I kind of got out in front of my skis a little bit, right? I said, well, I'm thinking about starting this peer group for people just starting their businesses, and talk about accountability. He did not leave me alone until we started that thing. So I love that. There's something else. Adam said something in my ear while the video was playing. He goes, "Did you hear him say customer and then say client?" Right. That's one of my pet peeve words. I have 3 pet peeve words. I hate the word customer. I prefer the word client. I think it more accurately describes the relationships we have with our clients. The other one is quote versus proposal. I mean, I hate the word quote with a passion. Again, it just screams commodity. I think we do proposals. And the third one is we don't charge sales tax, right? Your elected state government charges state sales tax. We're just their indentured collection agency. So we collect taxes. We don't charge tax. But anyway, Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I
What did you say?
had a question for you all. So I know I've never been part of a peer group, but you all three of you have been part of peer groups, running peer group programs now. What makes Pax8 different than other peer groups in the industry? What's different about us?
I'll start. I think for
I
me,
was like, don't all jump at once. But
I know, right? We're like looking at eye contact. No, for me, I think the biggest thing is that it's the bigger community. It's the tie-in with all of Academy. It's the connectivity between peer groups and on-demand and the structure-led courses and coaches, coaching and all of the resources, where we sit in the ecosystem in the industry is so unique. And I think all of that just provides so much value and color and context that it makes it really powerful and just really effective. So for me, I think that's what really sticks out is how our peer groups are connected to this whole community ecosystem around academy and learning and all the pillars that we have.
Somebody in the MSP consulting industry said to me not too long after the acquisition that the best thing that ever happened to his company was C-Level getting acquired by Pax8. And I just looked at him and smiled because he had no idea what we were going to be building to help the community. And I love everything that we've put together with the on-demand content, the instructor-led courses, the peer groups, and the coaching. And I'm completely driven by enabling our community to grow and mature their businesses. And I'm just so excited to have Adam helping us grow the peer groups. It's on an exponential rocket ship ride. And, none of this is a profit center for Pax8. All of this is about partner enablement. And that's what's so exciting about it. So, yeah, I'll hand the ball back to Chris.
Well, I want to hear it, Adam. Well, I'm putting him on the spot. He's not getting off the hot seat for this one.
All good. Yeah. So for me, it's really about just the kind of the overall holistic view of things, right? We're not requiring anybody to do anything in particular to be a member of our peer group, right? If you want to be in, we're going to let you in. And we have spots for you to go, no matter what size of company you are, no matter how mature you are as an organization, and all of those things that a number of other folks, you run into at other places. The other thing for me is their whole idea around really spending time and energy to build like these collaborative experiences. Again, kind of back to the more than just doing status updates and talking about a thing that's bugging you kind of a thing, right? That's all important stuff, but we can do that over virtual, no problem. But what you can't do over virtual is, all share a whiteboard or a window like we did it, when we were in Denver last, and like document and diagram out a real true way to solve someone's problem more than, well, yeah, I think this might work, or I think you should try that. Like, no, we actually sat down and worked together to solve a big problem for one of our members, and we're empowered to do that over and over and over again. So I get to spend time figuring out exercises and ways for us to be able to use that time and energy in this just remarkably collaborative space. And that's just, for me, is just huge. So that's my answer to that question.
Great answer. I like it.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Adam, for joining us and for talking about peer groups, for bringing in videos pre-recorded about everything that peer groups are about, and for just having this great conversation with us. So thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say that you can check us out next week when we talk to Todd Shorley on coaching journeys. He'll talk a little bit about how we got started in coaching and what coaching is all about and what you can expect from Academy coaching. So remember, we are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and on demand always. So don't forget to subscribe and like us on our YouTube channel. Over to you, Rex.
Well, I really, in my heart, believe that everybody watching picked up some nugget today. And with that, what are you going to do differently tomorrow? Thanks, everyone.
Love it.
Bye. Thanks.